Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I want to show you a really cool tool I've been working on called Candle Generator. It is a single blueprint system to create modern style candles for your ArcViz or decor style projects. It is based off of geometry scripts, so there's no meshes involved. It creates it dynamically on the fly in real time. Simple, easy, single blueprint, drag and drop. Lots of material options and ways to modify and change the candle. So let's hop into the project here and let me show you a little overview and some how-to on getting started with it. First things first, it'll be available on the Unreal Marketplace and on ArtStation. So whether you can either migrate it over from a project file or inject it from the Epic launcher, you'll be able to do so very easy and very quick. You'll see here you get greeted with a folder called Candle Generator. Super easy, super clean, and laid out really nicely. Next thing we're going to want to do is hop into our plugins here for your project. Make sure you go to plugins and you're going to want to enable a couple different plugins here. The first and foremost you need to is called Geometry Script. This one here, make sure that is enabled because the way the blueprint system, it's actually not using any static meshes. It's creating those on the fly using Geometry Script. So this is a must. It has to be enabled for the actual tool to work. The next plugin you're going to want to enable is HDRI. You'll be able to use this for in the example maps. It helps create a nice lighting environment for the glass. So make sure you go ahead and enable HDRI backdrop. Once you've injected the candle generator into your project, you'll see there is a candle generator folder here. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up one of the example maps. Now you'll notice here there's a Lumen version and a path tracing version. So for glass to work at its best, there's two different glass shaders included in the project. One is meant specifically for Lumen and one is meant specifically for path tracing. These renderers treat glass very differently, so make sure you use the proper one depending on what you're going to be using. Lumen also includes ray tracing, whereas path tracing is path tracing alone. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the path tracing version here because it does look the best. It's a little bit slower, but for the really good high quality renders, path tracing just looks the best. All right, so we've opened up the path tracing example map here. If you don't see this environment, make sure you have that HDRI plugin enabled. It gives us the best, nice, smooth, good lighting here. Also, we're gonna come up here to lit and we're going to switch on over to path tracing. And this may take just a couple seconds or so to compile the shaders if it hasn't done so already. And I'm gonna go ahead and press G to hide all our elements here. And you can see we have a bit of an example map with several different examples of how to use the glass shaders, all sorts of fun, cool stuff. So let's hop right on into it. We're gonna come up here and switch on over to the main camera here. And so as you can see here in the main camera, this is our simple basic glass shader here meant for a very simple type of glass candle. And so shapes, sizes, super easy to achieve. We can put lids on there, we can add a flame and so forth. We'll get into more of the options a little bit later. Just want to quickly show you some of the examples here. Next, we're going to switch on over to the colored wax version. The colored wax version is exactly that. You can do either a single color or I have it set up to, you can work as a gradient from a two-tone gradient, smooth or harsh lines, you choose. Next, let's hop on over to the distorted glass version here. So distorted glass uses a normal map to create a pretty cool decorative distorted glass type look, which is pretty cool. I really like this. Next, let's switch on over to our wrappers and labels. So under wrappers and labels, you'll be able to add a wrapper around the candle or a label or both at the same time. We have a few different options for that already pre-included. Let's go to another few wrappers and labels that come pre-included in the pack. And next we're going to do our frosted glass version. So in path tracing, we can achieve a really nice frosted glass look using colors and actual roughness. It looks beautiful. Lumen unfortunately does not support this exactly the same way. So for the Lumen, we have just a opaque version that is colorized a little bit, but should work pretty decently for Lumen. However, path tracing looks super good. All right, enough of the example maps. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like in an actual environment. And let's start going through some of the adjustments and how you can create the candles and make them look how you want and match your environment. This here is a sample environment level that is not included. This is a pack on the Unreal Marketplace. I will link that down in the description below in case you're interested in it. Super nice, super well laid out, and it looks pretty good. Right now we are in Lumen, so we're just gonna go ahead and use the Lumen version for now, just to kind of give a quick, fast overview here. So what I'm gonna do is hop into our candle generator folder here, and under blueprints, we have a Lumen version and a path tracing version. The blueprints are actually exactly the same minus the glass shader. So for this example here, let's go ahead and drag and drop our Lumen version in, and boom, there you go. Right away, we have a nice looking glass candle already set up and ready to go. The size and everything is predetermined here, but we can go ahead and start adjusting that. As long as you have your candle selected, and in your details panel here on the right side, you're going to see a couple different sections. Now I want to show this because this is pretty important here. At the top here, when you have your actual blueprint selected, there's going to be a materials section here. This is not the correct materials section. So when you want to make changes to materials, don't use this section. Just go ahead and collapse that. You can, in fact, collapse all of these sections until you get to candle generation here. Once under candle generation, there's typically several folders here or little drop downs that are hidden. I like to just go ahead and open them all up so they're ready and available to use. So we're gonna leave the materials for now, but I'm gonna come down here to glass size. So glass size is where we start to adjust the actual size of the candle. And what's nice is the candle itself, the wax actually forms to the same shape of the glass, so you don't have to do this individually. So you have a radius, so if you want to make it skinny or fat, you can do so pretty easy. You also have your height adjustment, so you can do a nice wide base, skinny ones, no problem. You also have an option for glass thickness. If you decide you want to make it a thicker glass or a thinner glass, you can easily do so. I'm going to set those back here. You also have a glass bottom thickness. So a lot of your fancy candles have like a very thick glass bottom here. Real quick, what I'm going to do is show you a nice little thing. Since these are actually done to scale, and a lot of times you're going to be dealing with very close-up shots, if you come down to your command console here and search in near clip, and you'll see R.SetNearClipPlane, and set that to 0. That means you can get nice and close without the camera clipping in through stuff. So you can see here we have our adjustment for the glass bottom height that you can do. And then what we have here is glass radial and height stepping. These basically essentially will be more of the quality settings for how do you plan on getting super close to the shot and you want it to be nice and smooth, or are these going to be more in the background and they don't need to have quite so many polys. So as it is, it's ready to go at 64 radial steps, so to make your actual circumference of the cylinder, and 16 height stepping, so you can always decrease those if you don't want them quite as high, or you can increase them if you want it a little bit more. I'll show you real quick here. So right now we're at 64. If I start decreasing this, you'll see it starts to get more of a faceted look, which actually a faceted look might kind of look nice. You might be going for that. So let's go ahead and reset that. Our next section here is candle settings. So you have a candle height offset. So if you decide you want to offset the candle inside of a glass, you can do so. You also have a wick length. I usually wouldn't go too crazy with this. You can either shorten it up or lengthen it a little bit. You also have wick thickness. If you decide you want to make a slightly thicker wick or a thinner wick, you can. Next, we have add a flame. Now this is a pretty cool feature. What I've done is create a simple flame that has a pretty cool material to it that uses simple wind and the world position offset to animate it. So if we turn on flame, okay, we're getting a little bright here. So you easily have a couple other options here. So let me show you this first. So you have the add flame light. So this is an actual point light. So the material itself of the flame is emissive, but a lot of times it's easier to add a simple point light there to actually give it better emission of light. So there is a point light included, so you can turn that off if you only want just the flame there, or we can turn that on and we can make some adjustments here to the point light. We can adjust both the intensity and the color temperature. So right now it's pretty high, so I'm just going to take this down to let's say 5 or so. And you can see as we get in close here, it has a pretty simple, nice little animation to it. It's pretty lightweight, super easy to implement, and it just gives the candle just a little bit of flicker. So if you're using these for animations, it adds just a little touch of realism there. And no matter how you look at it, it looks pretty good here. It's basically two planes that create this nice look. Our next section here is called glass shape. So here's where you get to fine tune the shape and the look of your glass. And so what we're going to do is use the add flare to the glass. So check that on, and you'll notice right away it doesn't seem to be changing anything. However, it is actually doing a small flare right down here at the bottom, more of a rounded bottom look to it. See if I uncheck it, check it back on, you can see that. So what flare does is allows you to flare either the shape out or in, and you can change the position of where the flare is happening. So here I'm going to go ahead and crank this flare up quite a bit. You can either go in a negative shape or a positive. So let's go on negative 30. You'll notice that it's pinching quite a bit down there. But if we take the flare position and we start to move that, you can see now we can start to create some custom shapes. And I would make sure that you always keep the flare position no higher than the actual height of the glass. It might cause some weird looks, but it still does work pretty well. So now you can do that, and we can start flaring it outward if we want, do an outer flare. And then there's also a couple different types of flares. So you can see here as you switch through these flares, they'll have a slightly different effect to them and a triangulate mode. I typically stick with this first one here, the actual sin mode. I think it looks really nice. So now that you have the flare in there, I mean, you can come back in and start adjusting the height, the width, all over again, make super unique styles. Next on our list here is the lid. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the flame here because I think a lid with the flame going is probably a little silly. So let's turn on our lid. And you'll notice here we get a pretty basic, nice, simple wood lid that's pretty clean. What you can do is you can adjust the wood thickness here, which does the wood top. And it's not always wood. We're going to change up some materials a little bit later and show you how to do that. And the next sections we have here are label and wrapper. So if you turn on the label, let's flip on over to the other side here, you can see we have a nice, cool label. The actual position of the label will be adjusted within the material instance. And last but not least is our wrapper. So if you add on a wrapper, that adds another little layer of decorative layering around the glass. So the glass is still there. It does not replace the glass, but it creates this nice little wrapper look here. And we have several options to choose from to change that up and match your style. What I'm going to do now is switch on over to path tracing, and I'm going to show you how easy and simple it is to take the candle generator and place it into your scene, modify it, change its look, and just fill out a room pretty simple, pretty easy, and very nicely. So let's go ahead and we're going to add the PT version here, the path tracing version, on top of this table. And we're going to come on in and let's just make a couple quick adjustments here to this. I want to, let's say, shorten this guy up a little bit and make him a little bit smaller. It's a nice little simple one here. We are going to go ahead and add the flame to it. I really like the flame. It looks good. Let's take that intensity down a little bit to, let's say, 5 again. And then what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down. Let's add a little bit of a flare to it. I really like the look of going outward and shape it up like that. Let's go out a little bit more. Nice, looks super good and clean. And you know, I really want to add a pretty cool little wrapper to this one here. So I'm going to show you. Let's go ahead and turn on our wrapper. Once you've turned the wrapper on, you can come up to your materials section here under the candle generation, not the other material section. And what you're going to do is under wrapper, let's just click the folder. And here we're greeted by several wrappers that are already pre-included material instances ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one here. What I like about this one is several of these wrappers come with a standard wrapper, and they also come with a masked version of it. So the masked version actually cuts out part of it, so you still get to see a lot of the candle underneath, which is pretty cool. It kind of gives you this printed look. And I think that's pretty good. That looks nice and simple there already. Let's hop on over here. Let's let's put one right here. So let's hop on back to our blueprint and drop another one here. And this one, I think we're just gonna leave the general shape of this one. I kind of like that. And so let's go ahead and add a lid. So turn on our lid. We're not gonna do the flame this time since the lid is there. And what we're going to do is scroll back up to our materials again. And you can see under the lid section here, we're going to browse to that folder. And we get about 6 or 7 different lid options here. We have a couple different metals, a couple coppers, aluminum. There's a cork and a couple different wood. I'm actually going to go ahead and do, let's say this copper one here. We're going to drop that copper one on top. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this one also. I really like the wrappers. So let's jump back to our wrapper folder here. I'm going to give this one of these plaid looking wrappers here. And we got to make sure we turn on our wrapper. So let's scroll down and turn on our wrapper. So there you have it. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to fill out a room with several different styles of candles. It's super easy, super adjustable. So let's go ahead and take a deeper dive into some of the materials and so forth. So let's do that. I went ahead and hopped back on over into the example path tracing level here just for some simplicity. And what we're going to do is hop into our main view here. Let's take a closer look at some of the materials. So in this particular shot here, the glass is the simple, clean path tracing glass, and the wax material is actually pretty cool itself. So the wax material is based off of a subsurface profile. So it gives us nice subsurface, which works really well in path tracing. Lumen works okay with it, not super great, but path tracing definitely gives us a better look. So let's hop into that material real quick here, and you can see you have some adjustments here for the roughness, specularity, opacity, so forth. And these all work pretty good, ready to go out the box. If you decide you want to change color, you can simply come in and adjust the color here. You can also do a two-tone gradient. So if you click on here and enable that, you can now get a secondary color here. So we're going to go, let's say, white to blue here. And let's turn on these options here. And what we can do is we can set the gradient scale and the gradient offset. So the gradient scale, it's pretty low right now. So you can see it's a pretty harsh line there. But as we increase that, that gradient will become bigger. And then your gradient offset basically does that. It moves the actual gradient position. So this is going to depend solely on the size of your candle itself. So if the candle is larger, you might want to adjust that a little bit. And if it's shorter, you're going to need to adjust it for that. So a pretty cool little effect there. And let's hop on over to the actual examples here for the colored wax. And you can see I did a few here. There's like purple, kind of a yellowish color, a two-tone soft gradient, two-tone harsher gradient, and another two-tone soft gradient there. Looks great and works really, really well. Next, let's go ahead and hop on over to the distorted glass section here. So as I mentioned before, the distorted glass basically uses a normal map to kind of give some ripples and effects. It's very cool, very decorative. So a lot of real candles kind of come in this type of look. So this is pretty easy to adjust. You can simply click on the blueprint, go under your glass material here, and you can see there are a few distorted. There's hammered, chord, spectrum, and waterfall. You can always hop in here and adjust some of those settings also. So let's click that in, and you can see here, you can adjust the power of the normal map, the tiling of the normal map if you want to decrease it and so forth. And you can really switch up the look. While we're in this spot here, I'm going to also show you the lid options here. So if we click on this one here, and under the materials section, you have your lids. So we can easily go in and change, have a couple different wood versions, a cork, 2 different copper ones, and 2 different aluminum ones. So you can easily go from a smooth, clean aluminum look like, or a copper look like that, to a kind of a hammered decorative look like that. You can easily switch to a cork, a wood, and so forth. This is super easy to do. You can also add your own custom materials to that if you'd like. Next, let's switch on over to the wrappers and labels. This is by far one of my favorite sections here because I feel like a lot of your real candles that you see on the shelf at the store and everything have a lot of wrappers and labels on them. So let's take a look here, and I want to show you how easy it is to just implement this, change stuff up. So on the actual wrapper itself here, once it's enabled, you can go into the materials section here and open up the folder here with all the wrappers in there. You can easily drag and drop all these different wrappers and they work and look fantastic. As I mentioned, there's a solid version and a masked version of the wrappers. So if you decide that you want a solid cover like that, or if you want a masked version which allows you to see through, you can do that. It looks really, really smooth. And the actual material itself is pretty simple. You can drag and drop in your own textures here, a tileable texture. And if you also have a mask for it, you can change the horizontal position, the vertical position of it, the rotation, and of course you can adjust the wrapper type material. So if you want it to be a little rougher and not so shiny, you can do that. Also pretty simple and pretty easy. Same thing with the actual labels here. Let's hop under the label material. So the label material itself is super simple. It's based on a texture and a mask. This comes pre-included with, I think, 6 or 7 different ones, and you can change the size, positioning, and so forth all in here. The actual size for this one is a little bit different. So the bigger the value, the smaller the label is. So basically it's doing tiling, but not actually tiling it. And a quick little note here, if you decide that you want to add your own textures into this, I'll show you. If you go ahead and you add in your own texture material, what you're going to want to do is open up your texture file here. And typically if you search wrap, it'll show up. However, I already have this turned off on here. So what you're going to do is under advanced tab here, there's an x-axis and a y-axis. And I set that to clamp instead of wrap. And so what that does is it prevents it from tiling because we don't want the label to tile all the way around it. We only want the actual label to show up once. So by setting that to clamp instead of wrap, that'll fix your texture if you decide to add your own. Next, we're going to go ahead and switch on over to the frosted glass section here. I really like this section because the frosted glass looks so good in path tracing. This is another pretty simple material. It's under the glass section, and you'll see that there's some frosted options there. You can come in and adjust the roughness amount to give it a little more, a little less of the the actual frosted look to it. Works pretty well. You come in here and you adjust your color, and that's what gives it a nice color sheen. Now, all of these options can almost all be combined into one. You can have a label, you can have a wrapper, you can have frosted glass, and you could add a normal map to it to give it that distorted look. So it could be distorted frosted glass. You can add the flames to it. You can have no flame, no light. You can add lids, so forth, adjust all the sizes and shapes of them. It works super, super well. And I'm really excited to share this with you guys as it gives you a lot of custom options and a way of not just browsing through a bunch of different static meshes that are ready to go, which you can always use these pre-made ones from this example project. You can easily just snag these and drop them right into your project if you want with the settings already put in there, or you can go in and dial them in to fit your exact environment and in your style. You can always add your own materials to that, which in the future I plan on offering some small, simple material packs for labels and wrappers and lids and so forth. So they'll be very inexpensive, probably $1.99 or so, and you'll be able to go in and add a plaid section. You'll be able to add a floral. You'll be able to add a trendy, whatever type. I plan on having those available in the future, so make sure you check those out if you do decide to purchase this. So that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for it. It's a really neat tool, super customizable. I have tons of options and future updates that I plan on doing with some pretty neat little things that I want to add to it. I want to have a melted version of it. I want to be able to distort some of it a little bit more. So look forward to that. Like I said, check out the marketplace for ArtStation. Check out some of the pictures and renders. It's super easy, super simple. I think for ArtViz or other like decorative applications and projects, this would work super, super great. Path tracing looks really good, and Lumen is also supported if you need a Lumen version of that. And that's going to be about it. I'll leave all the links down below. If you guys like this, make sure you hit up, comments, questions, anything like that you have, hit me down below. I'll definitely get back to you. I also leave a Discord channel down there where you can hop in, ask questions there if you need help with any of the tools or asset packs that I offer. I just recently launched a new site called createunreal.com. So if you want to check that out, it's kind of a place where I'm collecting all of my resources and things that I've done and created over time and put those into a simple place where you can browse, check out, learn, purchase stuff, and so forth. Again, I'm super excited. Thank you guys for checking out this video. And until next time, peace out.